It's dry and it's spring.
It's I can't think of the right words to describe. I'm sitting here in May and talking to you about the fact that we actually do need to irrigate, and that it probably doesn't look like there's any relief in sight for the next 10 or 12 days. And this is very unusual.
You're getting bud burst and things again, or bud.
We're getting all sorts of things going on. I mean, we for example, most of the irrigation that's taking place is on pastures, and we're still growing between 40 and 50 kilograms a day. So that's like that's akin to what we might be growing in late September, for example, coming into the spring and parts of early October. So very unusual conditions. If you're growing that amount of dry matter on in pastoral situations, then you're going to continue to get a response by irrigating, and we know we will, because we've got soil temperatures that are somewhere cranking around somewhere between about 12 degrees, 11 or 12 degrees starting in the morning, which is above our 10 degree threshold, and we're getting up to about 14 degrees during the day. So we've got pretty ideal conditions for growing ryegrass in particular, and fescues. So they're going to grow and produce that 40 or 50 kilograms a day. So
if there's water on it.
If there's water. I mean, we've reached the point where we have to advise people to actually irrigate. I mean, we have been hanging off and hanging off and hanging off, and of course they've been hanging off. I mean, it's May and they're going, oh, well, why would we be irrigating? But when you look ahead at the weather, you look at where we're at. If you can put on 10 or 12 millimetres, you're going to get through the next 10 days. Mm-hmm. And you'll get an immediate response to growth from that.
That's right. But what's going to happen, because we are getting buds forming?
I mean, plants, particularly those plants that are looking for, they should have gone dormant by now, or heading into dormancy. We would normally have had one or two really decent frosts by now. Usually by now we will have had a few 4 or 5 degree frosts, which pushes things into dormancy. I mean, they've decided, just because of the temperatures, not so much the day length, but they've decided because of temperatures that it is literally springtime, and that they're going to start growing again. And so what looked like buds a month ago have now truly formed into real buds, and are looking at bud break again in those sorts of plants. Yep.
Let's talk Ruataniwha. Are you surprised that it's still rushing on?
Oh, not at all surprised. I've done quite a lot of work in the Ruataniwha area, and sure, they had to go back to their farmer purchases, and they had to make some changes in the cost structure. But this is an opportunity that 3 droughts in 4 years, or 3 extended dry spells in 4 years, it has a pretty serious driving force towards purchasing water and being able to put that resilience back into those operations. And all along, while there are some very big players in there that will take a relatively large chunk of water, there have always been the farmers in there that particularly have breeding units, or have got bulls on board, and they're either having to sell in January or February when they haven't got animals to prime levels. Mm-hmm. So they're selling at deflated prices. So you struggle to make money when you're doing those sorts of things. And for those that have got breeding units, they're unable to finish their lambs, and they're unable to finish their yearlings. So they're always selling into the store market, not getting any prime prices out of those animals. And so there's been a very large uptake from those groups of farmers. So, they got their 45 million cubic metres they needed to press the green button. They've got 191 farmers, I think it's 191 farmers on board, signed up for that 45 million. And there will be a number of people that jump onto the ship now. It's like, they're the fair weather supporters, so to speak. Mm-hmm. They're sitting there waiting to see if it was going ahead, and the fact that it is going ahead now, they'll jump on board.
Will it get cheaper for them the more people come on?
No. The construction cost is the construction cost, and it's been budgeted on the basis that they sell all of the water that's available from storage, and so that's what the price has been worked out on. I mean, the scheme, it would be probably unviable for us for just over half of the water I think it is that's available for storage to be priced to cover the whole cost of the scheme. It's a $300 and something million scheme now. So
we hear lots of stories about the price just escalating, and every time they look at it, it's another couple of million.
Well, the big issue with all of these things, and if you look at all of the schemes, all the modern schemes in particular that have been built that weren't built back in the 30s and 40s and up until the mid 80s with subsidies, is that if you look at these schemes that are being built, the gestation period for them is so long. I mean, if you look at Ruataniwha, I think Ruataniwha is something like about 7 years down the track since it was initiated and the consenting process started. And your estimates to build 7 years ago are no longer the estimates to build now, no matter what the contingencies are that you put in there. And the same thing happens with CPW, the Central Plains Water Scheme in Canterbury. I mean, the cost of that has escalated. It was 10 years in the consenting process. So very hard to get an exact price looking out 10 or 15 years.
Because you can't really work out what the costs are going to do.
No.
In 10 years.
No. Land prices, for example, have gone up. So there are easements to be, just if you look at that, there are easements that need to be purchased and paid for to allow canals to come through farms or along roads or wherever they're coming. And so that land becomes more expensive because you don't go out and buy all of that initially. You might take out
exactly, because you don't know if it's going to go ahead or not.
Yeah, until such stage you get a sign up, you don't know that all of that water is going to come down that road or go across that farm or whatever it happens to be. So it's very hard to estimate that. People would say, well, the engineers should do a better job of estimating the price. Well, we don't know how much steel's going to be in 15 years' time, and we don't know what concrete's going to cost us in 15 years' time. We don't know what pipe is going to cost us in 15 years' time. You can take a stab at what the inflation adjustment might be, but it is a stab.
Yeah,
and look, the Ruataniwha water did not double in price after they went back to their farmer buyers. It went up a fraction. Sure, it went up from 25 cents or 23 cents a cubic metre, but it hasn't gone to 50 cents a cubic metre. It hasn't gone to 40 cents a cubic metre.
And it's still viable.
Still viable, yep. Yeah. Those farmers that have done their homework, you've got to remember most of these people don't have any water. So if you're putting water on, you're going to double your yield. So, instead of not finishing lambs off a 50,000 breeding unit, you suddenly can finish lambs off a 50,000 breeding unit. There's money to be made.
Tony, thank you very much indeed.